is basically about mergers and acquisitions. So at the beginning of the book, I talk about buying companies and why you might want to buy an existing company as an add-on, or even if you're a first-time buyer, to buy an existing company because there's existing cash flow versus starting a company from scratch, or maybe a franchise is best suited for you. Then we get into valuing companies. That's a big deal. And as a CVA, I value businesses, but really one of the big things that we got in that drove me towards the value builder system is I can value a business, the cash flow of the business, but say I value your business at $3 million and you say, well, that's great, let's sell it. Then you go to the sell stage, and that's when you get into the weeds and find out, oh, they got one customer that does 80% of their business, or they have one supplier that they have a licensing agreement that can't be transferred to another buyer, or accounts receivable is a big problem, and that's part of what Deb's going to talk to you about with KPIs and stuff like that. So that's the next chapter in the book, kind of, valuing a business and what adds, buying a business, how you value a business, the process of buying a business, all the steps that you would go through. Then in the middle of the book, I kind of get into, I call it, building your team. So there's chapters about attorneys, bankers, CPAs, financial advisors, and how important those people are in the role of your business. And we get into the bankability of your company, and basically there's two sides to every loan: cash flow and collateral, and what makes a person bankable. Then building value in the business which is kind of funny because I wrote that chapter before we signed on with the value builder system, and then the process of selling the business, and last chapter is what to do with your life after you sell the business. So I had the opportunity in my prior life, I owned an oil company and had the opportunity to buy 11 different companies, so I share my experiences in the book as I go through the process. So so far feedback is pretty positive on it. I wish I had a copy here for you, but unfortunately it didn't come. But like I said, it is available on Amazon. So I'll introduce Steve Denning. We are starting to work together more and more. Our two companies basically do the exact same thing. So he's going to talk to you a little bit about the value builder system.
Good morning. So as Terry said, I'm with ABN, and we do business brokerage and business valuation services. And this, Terry and I are doing this collaboratively because we're both doing a similar thing. Our objective here this morning is to begin to teach business owners how to grow enterprise value in the business, recognizing that at some point in the business life cycle, they're going to want to transfer the business, either to a family member, maybe to a key employee, or maybe to an outsider. So what Terry and I both have experienced is, as we're working with business owners, many times business owners don't really understand what are the dynamics that grow the true enterprise value of the business. They know how to grow sales and they know what the profit is that they're taking home, but how do you really grow enterprise value? How do you take a company's worth from an average level to an above average level? How do you get there? What are the dynamics that do that? So these meetings are designed specifically to teach utilizing the framework of the value builder, and the reason why Terry and I both selected that is it's a very, very thorough but very simple system to understand. So, we're all business owners of one type or another in various industries, and we spend our day very engaged in what are the specifics of our industry. And sometimes we get so deep in the weeds that it's hard for us to step back and take a look at our company as a whole and say, what are the dynamics of our company that make our company more valuable into the future? So the value builder breaks that down into 8 various categories. And over the course of 12 months, Terry and I are endeavoring to sponsor these meetings every month. We're going to invite a speaker to come in and talk about one specific area and really get down in details about a specific area, and then we'll tie it back to how does that relate to one of the 8 dimensions of the business. These meetings in the future we would like to offer to those business owners that really want to get specific and really want to work through with a little bit of one-on-one coaching, how can they take their business from an average level to an above average valuation level and make sure that all of their key management decisions and leadership decisions are designed around really improving enterprise value over time. We're going to offer a separate meeting in conjunction with the public meeting for those business owners that are interested in putting together a specific plan for their own business and going through a model to do that. We offer that coaching on a one-on-one basis. It's $1,000 a month per business owner. In a classroom setting, we're going to design this classroom setting so hopefully we'll have multiple business owners to give you the opportunity to talk with some of your peers, and we're going to do that at a rate of $250 a month. So you'll come in for an hour of instruction in a classroom setting and really work through the same workbook that we normally charge on a one-on-one basis. Do it here privately. If that's not for you, we're still going to have the public component that we're going through today. So we'll have an invited guest that will come in and talk about one aspect of enterprise value. Terry and I will come back and relate that to the overall sections of that. On your tables is this flyer. You're more than welcome to take it with you. It'll really just begin to introduce you to the various dimensions that are important in valuing various enterprises. Interestingly enough, this really applies no matter what type of business you're in. So even if you're a solo entrepreneur and your business is, I know in your business you do primarily insurance products, right?
Insurance investment plan.
Yeah, but many of those businesses are conveyable. You just have to set up the right dimensions. So it's not just working on your business, developing a stream of income over years, and then when you get to retirement age, closing the business. This is designed to help you set up your business in such a way that you can convey it at some point as well, and use your business as a retirement vehicle for you also. So, a lot of information we've dumped on you in a short period of time. Can I answer any questions for you real quick before I introduce our speaker?
She's chomping at the bit.
Awesome. Well, listen, we're honored that
Actually,
you...
I wanted to grab a glass of water quick. I just didn't
Please
want to
do.
walk in front of you, so.
Please do. So we're honored that you came this morning. Again, we'll be sending you some future
Thank you.
communications. Thank you for making the effort of finding this location this morning. I know our instructions weren't all that great. They'll be better next time and every time thereafter. So.
Hey, Steve, real quick,
Yeah.
before I introduce Tim Weinhold, Regions Bank, and thank Regions for letting us host the event here. So, Tim, Tim's primarily in charge of SBA part here at the bank. Regions is huge in SBA lending.
Yeah, so being the SBA specialist, I finance a lot of these types of transactions, ownership change, partner buyouts. It's a really program with the SBA fits in that model really well. I actually have a closing at 9:30. Max Mitz here is one of our commercial bankers. He's the relationship manager, and he's got all the tools, and he brings me in if there is a need with one of his clients and vice versa. So we work together, we work as a team, and it's for the greater good. So I appreciate you coming in, and thanks for your attention.
Thank you for your sponsorship. Business valuation is a bit of a science, but it's very easy to understand once you get the main principles. However, you can't change the value of your business overnight. It takes time. And we like to say that with a very solid plan on about 3 years to really have a meaningful impact in changing the value of your business. So you have to be very deliberate about it, and those people that are really see phenomenal results from it. So it's an important topic. Our endeavor is to help teach it to you. And if you know other business owners in the market that you think would benefit from this, we'd be honored if you'd recommend them to come to this meeting as well. We're not here to sell you anything. We're here to teach business valuation. So with that, I'm honored to introduce you this morning to Deb Corey. Deb is a very well-respected and very well-known CFO. She's actually a contract CFO. And she's got a couple of things to share with us this morning that are really impactful as it relates to the financial performance of your business. So, Deb, we're honored you're here.
Okay, and I'm honored to be here. I'm really excited. I'm glad we got through the technical difficulties this morning and we got through traffic. Even the best of plans. I came here, I think about 2 weeks ago to make sure the setup was going to work, and look what happened. So it's great that we have a great team here at Regions that got us up and running today. I appreciate it, so thank you. Today we're going to talk about KPIs, and those are key performance indicators. That's your business report card. So you talk about your balance sheet, your income statement. This is the report card that bankers look at, buyers look at. This is what they use to judge how well your business is doing. So there's good and bad things about that. Good thing is you can change it. It's not like high school where it's permanent, or college where that GPA stays the same. With KPIs, you can work and make them better. And when you get your KPIs better, what happens is you can get better prices for your business. You can get better rates on loans. Your business is more valuable. Does anybody want to hear more about that? Sure. Okay. So we're going to talk about 8 of them today. And this is one of my favorite. Revenue per employee, sales per employee. How many people have seen KPIs before or know a little bit about them? Okay, great. Have you seen this stat before? Okay. So sales per employee, what that's supposed to measure is efficiency. How efficient is my business? And this is a really important stat to a lot of businesses. And if you look at this example, real time, industry standard's 169, and this business is at 113. So is that good or is that bad, do you think? Okay, and why would that be? Right. Or it could be maybe you just added an employee because you're expecting increased sales, right? Or it could be that maybe you're under automated compared to your industry. Or it could be maybe you just gave Jerry a big bonus last month for his sales and it kind of skewed this number. So one of the important things to understand about KPIs is to know what's going on behind the scenes. So in this example, I had an owner that got very upset about this KPI because they thought they were overpaying their employees. And that wasn't the case. They were incredibly under-automated for their industry. So I'm sorry, I have some really bad allergies.
You're just taking revenue divided by payroll?
Yep, revenue divided by payroll. I'm sorry, revenue divided by full-time employees.
So if your revenue is $1 million and you have 20 employees, you're just taking $1 million divided by 20?
Right.
Doesn't matter what position they're in.
Doesn't matter what position they're in. So if you look at this is a consulting and staffing firm. So for this firm, this is probably not a good stat because staffing and consulting, there's not a lot of assets. It's mostly employees. So this business would actually want to take a look at this KPI and see what's going on. Does that make sense? All right. This one's awesome, right? Look at this one. Industry's 350. They're at 707. They're rocking it. Right?
Except for the decrease.
Right. What do you think that really means? Yes.
What industry standard do you use, or what I don't know, listing do you use to figure out the employee standard for a particular industry?
He stole my thunder. So, benchmarking, right? So you have to be benchmarked against the right industry, first of all, when you're looking at these things. So you want to make sure that you're in the right industry. This is a manufacturing company, and they're at 707,059. What that probably means is they don't have enough employees to do things.
I would assume that was why it dropped from the 842, because they were probably working their people to death, so they hired more people.
What happens when you work your people to death? They leave. And so when people leave, what does that cost you?
A lot of experience.
Experience,
Customers.
customers, time, consistency, retraining,
Rehiring the whole process.
rehiring. So if I'm a banker or I'm somebody looking at this process, I might think the owner's way too involved in this business, all right? I might think he's the key, and if I go to buy him, what happens to everything in that business, all right? So listen to me talk is really boring. So we're going to talk about the current ratio, and then there's a couple other ratios that I'm going to have you guys kind of team up a little bit, so that way you get to know each other a little bit and talk about them. But we're going to talk about current ratio first, and that talks about cash, basically. So that takes your current assets, divides them by your current liabilities, and predicts how much cash you have to pay off your current stuff. So in this example, benchmark's almost 2.5. This industry is at 0.8, which means they have less current assets or cash, and they've got a lot of liabilities. So what do you think this business should do?
Line up a line of credit or get more cash.
Great, I love that. Line up a line of credit. Businesses are afraid to use lines of credit. And hopefully this business had a line of credit before all this started. All right, so that's the number one mistake I see business owners make. When things are good, they don't go to their banker and get a line of credit. Because when they need the line of credit, they can't get it. That's the way it works. All right? So if you've been in business for a while and don't have a line of credit, and Regions is your bank, please see a Regions guy or gal and talk to them. It's a really important piece of your cash flow program. So in this example, they're at 0.8. They need to do some things. What are some things they could possibly do?
Work on outstanding accounts receivable.
Yes, work on outstanding accounts receivable. Maybe bill quicker. So a trend I see all the time is we want to pay our vendors right away, and we don't get our cash in the door. We don't bill our clients right away. And those should be reversed. And I'll say that over and over again today. Get your billing out, get your money in, and then extend your vendors as long as possible. Who does that? Walmart, GE, right? They don't pay people in advance. And you can do that as a business. Another thing that you can do is sell obsolete assets. So if I have this wonderful computer that's VGA, what's it worth? Sitting on my shelf. Is it cash that I can take and go get something? No. So when you have obsolete assets, that's money you've already spent that you can't use for cash in your business. Sell it. You can donate it. Sometimes charities will take that money for you. You can write it off your taxes. But do something with it to generate cash. I have owners that I meet all the time that are afraid to do something with their obsolete. It's not getting them anything. All right?
Another thing is if the receivables are okay, it could be that the line has been extended to its maximum density, right? So maybe you consider taking that line and terming it out.
Right.
So that you can reduce the current portion.
Right. So another strategy is to reterm your loans so you have smaller cash payments. Another strategy would be to delay capital expenditures, right? Because that's a use of cash in this situation. Or if you're going to make that capital expenditure, make sure you finance it so the payments are smaller. Yes, sir.
Accounts receivable are included in this ratio, right?
They are.
So collecting accounts receivable
Is one of the easiest things you can do. It is.
It won't improve the ratio, right?
won't
Yeah.
improve the ratio, though.
No. It'll get you cash, but it won't improve the ratio. Yes.
I have a question for the business guy over here. So what's the normal situation with fees on credit lines right now? Are most businesses sitting there paying an annual fee to have a credit line open, or are they not paying a fee?
I've seen it both ways. I actually had a business that had one. It came up for renewal. They hadn't used it for 2 years, and they didn't want to pay the $1,500. It was a large line to keep it open, so they closed it. About 3 months later, they had a situation where their payroll was already in ACH scheduled for delivery, and they accidentally paid a vendor, so then they were short, and they didn't have a line, so we had to basically overdraw them, approve that ACH to go out. And I said, hey, that line would be nice to have. And they said, yeah, you're right. So I think it's, the banks don't like to have those big lines out there because they're not making any money. So once we get over $1 million, they go into a situation where it's unused line fees. And so some of the larger companies will pay for that. But smaller companies with lines under $1 million, generally, if they don't use them, they'll cancel them. They just don't want to pay the fee. And we don't want to keep the line open because we're not earning any money, so.
Okay, so you are charging fees on kind of unused credit lines. What
Once it
about
gets
used credit lines? Still fees, or is there?
Yeah, it's just the interest rate, so prime plus something.
Can you tell everybody what that rate is? It's really, really important. What's
Yeah,
that
so
rate
the
right
interest
now?
rate is just basically, prime's at 4.5. So if we charge prime plus 1, it's 5.5% times whatever you borrow. So if you're borrowing, $100,000, that's $5,500 a year, right?
A year. What would that be a month?
$600.
$600.
Less than that,
$400. If it was for the whole month, because don't lines work on how long you have it out per day?
That's right. Sure.
All right. So people forget that. So one of the strategies, since you brought up lines, I'm going to talk about this now. But one of the strategies with AP, because I have owners that say I can't pay my AP and get purchase discounts, get a line. If somebody's offering you 2% net 10, think about what that is over a year versus taking out what he just said on a line. You're losing money if you don't have a line to pay some of those purchases earlier for discounts. That's the only time, by the way, it's acceptable to pay early, okay, is if you're going to get a discount from a vendor. Go ahead.
Clearly understand this. So are you saying that if someone has a $1,000 a year unused line fee, if they'll pay you at least $1,000 in interest, that won't happen then? There won't be a line fee? Or does the line fee happen every year regardless no matter what?
Every 12 months we review the line. So if they're not using it and we go to charge them the fee to just renew it, that's when we'll get that conversation sometimes to say, hey, I'm not using it, just close it. But if they're even not using it, we're going to say, we like you as a customer, so as long as you pay us the renewal fee, we'll keep it open. So it's either one or the other. We want to see the interest being earned from them using the line, but we'll still issue the line, as long as they
Which
just
fee?
agree to pay, a renewal fee.
Right.
Otherwise, we're just, we're for profit also, and
Well, it ties up your capital with your ratio.
Right. It ties up the amount they have available to lend to other people so that you understand. I don't know that he'll say that, but that's why the bank does that.
yeah, there's a reserve set on it.
Right. Right.
Good question.
Yeah, it's a great question. All right, so let's talk about accounts receivable days. I would like you guys to break up in groups of, I think, 4. All right, so accounts receivable days talks about how many days it takes to collect your money. So this is a problem for me right away. Anytime you're more days in your industry, that's a problem. That's cash that you don't have to use in your business. So average is 60 days for a lighting company. They're at 90.16. Why don't you guys break into a group of 4, you guys a group of 4, and then you guys down here. And then talk about strategies that you could do, and then I'm going to talk about some other ones that I know to improve this metric. All right, so let's wrap it up, everybody. And then pick somebody to share some ideas. Okay. So the first group on the end, who did you pick as your fearless leader?
We didn't pick a leader.
Are you going to speak for the group then? Okay. So why don't you share some of your ideas you guys came up with?
Well, I think the main idea that we came up with was putting some incentive or tying an incentive to the customers paying in a quicker manner. So perhaps having some sort of tiered reward system or something of that nature.
I love it. Okay, great. What'd you guys come up with, or gals?
One thing that was just brought up is that as you're agreeing to do business together, have a conversation up front that your expectation is
Excellent. Yes.
have payments, have this, because it takes two
It does.
to happen and it's not a one-way street.
It does. Okay.
Oh, we've got several answers.
Awesome. Please share.
Okay. So one would be a really large guy with an exposed firearm.
I like that option, but that's probably not good for your business later on.
Well, if you get to that point. But
Name
Those are the one-off customers.
Yes, yes. You've got to replace those ones. Then you've got to replace them, right? All right, all right.
That's only if your business is on the hill, right?
Well, yeah, he's gotta be named Guido. How come Max looked at me and said that one had to come from Becky? I'm like, what?
All right, continue.
Be like whoever has the relationship with the client, have that person kind of gently harass them to go ahead and,
Perfect.
Another would be collection agency to try to, get the AR
Yep.
collected. And another would be shut off goods and services.
Thank you. Can you say that louder?
Shut off the goods and services.
If somebody, I'm going to interject before you finish your list. If somebody's not paying you, a new sale is not getting you anything. That's right. Go ahead.
Okay, now she's going to talk.
Well, but here's another question though. If you have someone who owes you $10,000 and your profit margin is 5%, is it more important to go after new sales with other customers or collect your $10,000?
You need to do both.
You have to collect your $10,000 because
Right.
that's pure profit. You would have to generate another $200,000 in new business just to get back to zero. So go after the money you're owed.
Go after the money you're owed, but don't continue to sell them, is
Oh,
what
I-
I'm saying,
Yeah.
if you're owed a lot of money.
Right.
Because, I'm sorry, where are we at today? Who's the bank here? Regions, right? You don't want to become the bank. Yeah, you don't want to become the bank in this example, right? Because if you have to go out and borrow money because customers aren't paying you, that's not good. Go ahead.
I have a commercial construction supply business that's one of my clients, and they hired a bookkeeper,
Mm-hmm.
and she was like, wait a minute, they don't pay, we're not sending them a new product. And they said, well, we would have never done that, but oh my gosh, she's making us money.
Yes.
So just having that right person.
Yes. It's really important.
Yeah.
They're usually gonna find a way to pay you if you
Yeah.
if you say you're not getting any more. If they have the ability to pay you, they're gonna pay you.
So who will pay first? The person you're nagging the most, the person you shut off, right? Then you have their attention. Go ahead. What else did you have on your list?
Oh, I had 4 things.
Okay.
She was going to talk about the types of people
Well,
that you're dealing with.
Yes.
You're dealing with like 4 different kinds of people, reliable, distracted, disrespectful, and then deliberate. So reliable people pay on time, they update their credit cards on file with you proactively, they just take one statement. Then distracted people take 3 to 5 touches to get their attention, but they're the kind of folks that as soon as you get them on the phone, they're like, I'm so glad you called, here's my credit card. And you're wondering, why didn't they call me back after the 3 to 5 calls I made to their voicemail? And then you have disrespectful folks that know that they owe you, but they don't really care. And then you have deliberate folks that sought you out, that knew they weren't going to pay you the day they walked through your door. And that's a very small segment of the population, but those last 2 need collection activity from an agency.
And so to piggyback on your bookkeeping story that you told about the bookkeeper, I worked for a subcontractor, which means they would have punch lists, right? They would get to the end of their billing, we would need our 10% retention, or maybe it was the last progressive payment, and we were constantly having problems getting our money. I did one simple thing. When the bill went out, I had the salesperson call 2 days after the bill went out. Hey Larry, we've wrapped up your job, how do you think it went? Touch point from the business to the customer. You knew immediately if Larry wasn't happy with something and you could fix it, right? That did wonders to increase this number. That simple 1-minute phone call. Go ahead.
Another point is, I would rather be gauging my success and the level of satisfaction throughout that process as opposed to after the bill's been delivered to find out, because he could always just flip that on you and say, you know
Yes.
what, I'm really unhappy.
Yes.
And then he could build it in our 30, 60 days of that payment, but if you're tracking his
Yes.
satisfaction throughout the project, you can build with confidence.
And that's what we did. We started at the end and then we started doing it through the process. Yes.
So when I was in business for myself, we did something similar. I dealt with a lot of home builders.
Uh-huh.
And 08, 09 got so ugly. There were some of them that, I mean, one of them was in jail. I mean, really, I knew that guy wasn't gonna pay me, but I had my people go to a select few that we just knew were struggling. And we told them, we're gonna have to put you on COD. But as you pay, if you wanna continue to get product, we'll work with you. If you can pay 10% of what you owe every time you place an order. We had several that really reacted well to that. We retained them, and they were grateful for the outreach and the overture.
Loyal.
And loyal, I bet.
But we didn't do that with everybody. 'Cause
Right,
I
you were
mean,
selective,
we were
which
like-
leads me to,
There is, some customers are trainable,
right,
right? There's a portion where somewhere in the middle where if you let them get away with it, they won't pay you.
right.
But if you train them, hey, I'm not gonna put up with your BS, you're gonna have to pay, or no services, then they'll just do it because
Yes.
they know that's who you are.
Yes.
These are all things that I would have covered in my presentation, and we just missed one, a really important one. Have a credit app. Have a credit app. Check their credit first. Call their vendors first. Tell you a story, engineering firm. We have been dying to get in with this vendor. They had great prices. Wouldn't let us have credit, wouldn't let us have credit. Big project, call them up. Yep, we'll do it. Send us a down payment. Awesome. A deposit. It was a huge deposit. I went into my boss and I'm like, do we know that these guys are okay? I think I should check them out first. We're going to send them a lot of money. Oh my God, they've been in business for 45 years. We don't need to check them. Don't worry about it, send the money. 7 days later, they filed for bankruptcy.
Before or after they got their check?
After they got my check, which I could not get back.
To cancel it.
Yeah. So, you know, sometimes when things are too good to be true, they're too good to be true. You got to check them. So check people out, even if it's a vendor, especially if you're sending somebody money. Check them out. All right? So great ideas. Inventory days. How many people know what inventory days is? All right, turnover. How many people have inventory? Any owners in the room have inventory or no? Okay. So we won't spend a lot of time on this then. Inventory day turnover, that says how many cycles you go through your inventory. All right? So this one, it takes 81.56 days compared to an industry of 45. I think they got some obsolete stuff going on. Or they got some slow-moving product, or they're buying too much in advance, or they bought way more than they had orders for. So my favorite thing I love to hear all the time from Shark Tank. Who watches Shark Tank? Anybody? I love that show. What's the last question they always ask before they invest? Anybody know? How many purchase orders do you have? How many orders do you have? How many orders? So when you sink too much into your inventory, that's cash you don't have available for something else. You got to be really careful how you're balancing that. So just some important things to consider with this KPI. All right, so this is my other one. This would make me really mad. There's only one reason I would love that, and that would be if they had some really big vendors that are a net 2%, 10 days. So here's the industry average, 35 days. They pay in 15 days. So in this example, I want us to get back together. The payment's not the problem. I wanted you to talk about what are the opportunities this business is losing. Think about that for a second. Because we're going to assume this business isn't taking care of cash discounts. All right, we're going to remove that from the equation.
So other than just feeling good about yourself, is there a reason to pay that quick?
Exactly. So what if payroll's next week and you just paid somebody $20,000 and you forgot to see if Larry's really paying you? What if there's this really great sale on inventory, you don't have a line of credit, right? And you know you can sell it at a sale, but you already used your money because you wanted to pay all your vendors really fast and look really good too. All right? So I'm not saying to pay vendors late because I don't want to get paid late, right? What I'm saying is don't pay before it's due.
If you're a fortunate business that doesn't have cash constraints, then this would be advisable because of course you're going to be held in that regard.
Yeah, I will say one thing to the counterweight to that.
Okay.
If you want suppliers and vendors to jump and run, pay them immediately.
Exactly, then you're at the top of the list.
Yeah, you're the first priority.
Get something for it.
Right.
Get something for it. Negotiate a better price. Negotiate a discount. Is it 1% net 15? Is it 2% net 10? Right? Go ahead.
Goodwill.
Right?
That's part of it.
If it's a large order, maybe you negotiate delayed billing.
All right, so now think about how many big vendors you have that you would do that with. Maybe 1 or 2, maybe 4 or 5, and how many vendors do you totally have in your business, right? So think about where you're putting your money. So don't do it for everybody. Do it for the ones you need, right?
Things we coach to with businesses is to use a corporate credit device versus a line, and use it because at day 30 you can pay with that.
Yep.
And now you have another basically 45 days on our program. So it's really a 75 day use of cash that you don't have to worry about.
Which is what I was going to talk about. P cards and virtual cards.
And then you get rewards too.
You get rewards, you get rebates. How many people don't know what I'm talking about? And I'll explain. Okay, so instead of writing a check, your banker has a system where you can actually use a credit card to pay. So in this instance, if you were using a P card, I'd be really happy because you've paid these guys early, but you've held on to your money a lot longer because you don't have to pay that P card. The bank will rebate you in many instances for using a P card. So you know how you hate when somebody gets 3% off your money? Typically you'll get somewhere between 3 to 2% back from the bank for using this system for paying by P card.
Is that just a function of efficiency? Or what's the
Efficiency and then vendors that they have on their list. So volume vendors is what you're looking at and vendors that accept that type of payment. But if you haven't talked to your banker about it, it's a great way to get some of that money back. All right?
When you say P card, why do you say P card?
Purchase card.
Okay, because I'm like thinking credit card. But
It is a credit card. It's a purchase card, so a lot of times bigger companies will give their purchasing department so much authorization a day on a purchase card as part of their internal controls.
Okay. And a lot of times only certain things can be purchased.
That's correct. Under certain dollar limits, yeah. So, right? So, and then I hear all the time, I'm glad you brought up P cards. I don't take credit cards because it costs me money. Really? Are you sure? It costs you money not to take a credit card. Why would I say that?
It's an obstacle to doing business.
Yes.
Lost sales.
Yes.
well, and you could be getting paid soon, so you could be.
They can choose to pay Larry in 30 days instead of you. If somebody's offering to give you your money right away, take it. Well, it's not in my price. Put it in your price. Everybody pays by credit card. Just add a 2% to whatever you're selling today or 3% to what you're selling today. Engineering firm, we work for GE. My president used to get so tootin' mad at me because I would take the 15 or 30-day payment. And I'm like, just add it into the price. Everybody else does, right? So, I mean, it's really simple things sometimes we just don't think about, right? Okay. So now I want to talk about gross profit margin. We're going to break back into groups. I know you're like, what? For that one? Really? You already know some great things to do with gross profit margin. So gross profit margin is the cost to make your product. So it's sales minus the cost to make your product. That's your gross profit margin. You get the biggest bang for your buck when you can improve your gross profit margin. And I have a story to share about that after you guys all break up in your groups. So let's take another 5 minutes and talk about some strategies where you could get a better gross profit margin, what could you do? It's sales and the cost to make your product. Okay? So let's start in the middle. What were some of the ideas you guys had?
Thought that they're either, really selling at a discount, or that we have a supplier that's charging us too much, one or the other. Obviously, they could be a startup because they're kind of moving in the right direction, but ultimately their margins are so far off industry standard that, they're doing some things wrong. That's what we pointed out, and so you just correct them. Get a better supplier.
Right, so it could be the vendor. Maybe they didn't negotiate with the vendor.
Or they're buying a business.
They're buying market
They're not
share.
selling value.
Right. It could be that. What else?
We're assuming the expenses on this one would only be the cost of jewelry and not
Yeah,
payroll.
cost of goods sold.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. What were some of the ideas you guys had?
Well, I mean, there's the obvious raise prices, cut costs, but one I thought about that's probably important here is the product mix. Maybe you're selling the wrong.
I love it. The product mix.
People
Yes.
they can't hold the line on price.
Yes. Awesome. Keep going.
That's it.
Awesome. Go ahead.
So we're talking just about wholesale, or you mentioned retail or manufacturing?
Anything on this line, how can you improve gross margin for a business? Yeah.
Okay, so if you look at Amazon's business model, they segment their value chain down. So
Mhm.
like their Amazon Prime membership, right, $100 a year. Well, they've studied that they can increase inventory turnover by having Amazon Prime membership. So and now they're getting into their own shipping, Amazon Prime now. So they've spent a lot of upfront capital, $10 billion at first, to drive the herd into the industry, and they've developed relationships with supply chain and distribution chains at a loss in the beginning, but long term, now that they have everybody conditioned to going through their process, they have repeat customers, and one of the key elements is the Amazon Prime. An average customer will spend $400 or $500 a month. But if you become a Prime member, they've studied that they'll spend over $1,000, $1,000.
That's a true story.
Yep.
So it's free shipping.
Right.
So if you look at the value chain, develop relationship with your shipping partners.
Yes. You guys have hit on all the biggies.
Right.
Logistics and shipping. Yep. Purchasing. Right. Sales. Cautionary word on sales. If you're in a high index industry, you don't want to be known as a cheap guy or gal. So be careful of your sales. You don't want to have them too often if you're in a high-end industry, because what happens to your customer base? They wait for the sale. So you're going to lose margin. So make sure you have a plan, right? You need to think about how that pricing is going to work and have a pricing plan. I'm going to tell you a story of what I did. I was in a distributor business. We were having trouble with gross margin. We did an analysis, and we didn't have a process for our returns. And that was a big problem. When we put a process in for returns, we increased our margin 3%. 3%. That's 3% of sales. And what happened to all that money because we did that process? Straight to the bottom line. So sometimes it's looking at your processes too, How is it that you're doing those things?
So you're saying I'll charge you more, but you can return it.
Yeah, it was helpful. But where we were losing the money was, we were a distributor, right? So we're not manufacturing anything, we're buying from a manufacturer. And we were losing the money on the back end of the return because we weren't getting our RGAs in or processing them in time to get those credits back that we had given our customers. That's a big deal. All right? So net profit margin, I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. We talked about one of the most important things to net profit margin, which is why I start with that one. So improving your gross margin, right, improves your net profit margin. Looking at your daily expenses. The one thing people forget is to hold your outside vendors accountable. And what I mean by that is you hired a vendor to do something for you, right? Maybe it's a bookkeeper. Maybe it's somebody handling your HR for your business. Have stats for them and goals, things they're supposed to accomplish for you, and hold them to it. Make sure the money you're spending for your outside resources is working for you. You're allowed to do that. You've hired them to do something. Okay? So, net profit margin is normally where everybody starts. Do you see today why you might want to start in some other areas first? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. And then the last thing we're going to talk about is debt to equity ratio. All right, how many people in here think debt is not a good thing to have? There's no right or wrong answer, by the way. All right, yeah, you're a yay or a nay?
I'm not necessarily debt, but the ability to borrow.
There we go. The ability to borrow is really important. So in this example, their debt to equity ratio is 2.75. They're at 2.38. These guys are in pretty good shape. All right? So banks, they like those numbers right there. But remember I said we should do industry to industry comparisons? So in telecommunications, this may not be a really good number. Why would that be? If you're in telecommunications, you have a lot of investment in technology. So not all debt is bad. You have assets to offset that debt, right? So certain businesses are expected to be higher leveraged in debt than others. So that's why it's important to talk to either your accountant or your banker, or make sure that your numbers make sense. Okay? And borrowing is not bad. Borrowing is an opportunity for you to use your cash for other things to grow your business. Okay? The biggest mistake I see businesses make, and we're going to talk about EBITDA now, is that they don't grow their business at a good pace. And what I mean is they grow faster than their assets and their inventory and the things they need to make sure they have enough cash to continue their business. Does that make sense? So if you grow too fast, you're like in this continuous loop of funding your business. You never get to pull anything out. Does that make more sense? So you've got to have structured growth. You've got to plan for it. How many people did a business plan when they first started their business? When's the last time you looked at it? Okay. Your business plan is your business resume, right? So, if you ever were a W-2 employee and you had to go to work and, you pull out your resume at the last minute because you decide it's time to switch, that's what you're doing to your business plan. How outdated is that thing? Take a look at it because, things happen overnight. You want an updated business plan that you can hand a banker or a financier. That's your resume for your business, right? So they know you know what you're talking about. Yes?
This may not be the case with everybody, but when I look back at the business plans that I wrote when I was in business, the first one I wrote looked like Field of Dreams. I mean, at the end of it, I was making cajillions. And I thought it was smart. I really thought it was smart. And when I look back on it, I was like, oh, God, whose crack-induced idea was this? Let's get into reality. But
Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
Go ahead.
honestly, I don't project anything for anyone unless some banker wants one of these Field of Dreams, projections in order to make a loan. Because there's the line that no one puts on there called the unexpected, and it's huge. And it blows everything up, and you might as well forget about it.
Yeah, that's not a linear event. It's got
No.
bumps.
The
So,
unexpected
I mean, I
always
realized I
comes.
had to have a plan, but I had to plan on what was certain as far as the income goes, and not have a pipeline that was like, full of hopium.
well, I'd like to leg off on that just a little bit. So, how many people get up in the morning and they have this great plan on what they're going to accomplish for the day? I do, right?
How about the night before?
Oh, you're even better. You plan the night before. I love it. Okay, and then life happens, right? And we get to the office and we have this big smile on our face and everything's going to be great today, and what happens? Right, the unexpected. But if you don't have a plan for where you think your business is going, how do you deal with the unexpected? All right?
You got there.
Right. How do you know if you got there in the first place? So life is always going to throw you curveballs, and I'm glad you said that. But if you don't have a plan to get to where you want to go, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to happen. And with a plan, you can look at the curveball and say, okay, I know I got this coming here. I can deal with this. All right? So that is my presentation. I am done.